What's going on, guys? Welcome to a little bit of VEE080 content. Now, I was really hoping to be here for the whole time that we were going to be doing this work to this thing, but unfortunately, due to the things that have happened this month, which is December, we're coming up to Christmas. I've got to go do things for Christmas, and then Rex has got to go away for New Year's in the VEE080, so a lot of this work has to be done before he leaves, which means I'm just not going to be here to capture the content. So I figure I'll take you for a quick run through what's going on, and then I'll leave the camera with Rex and he'll just document as much as he can. However, he is very, very much pushed for time. He is in a big rush, so I don't know how much he's going to be able to film, but we'll see how he goes. So, big old VEE080. As you guys know, lately, the biggest issue we've been having with this thing, since we redid all the manifolds and stuff about this time last year, is boost control. So, having a lot of boost control issues. What it is essentially is just these old Chinese tile gate copies have just had their day. It's they've done well to make it as far as they have. They've been through a couple of different iterations now, 3 different iterations of this thing. I'll just put the spot up. And they're just no longer cutting it. So I think just heat over time, a long time, a lot of heat cycles, etc. They're just warping, and these banjo fittings and stuff, they just don't seal well anymore. And what we're getting is huge leaks from the actual banjo fittings, which is causing a lot of boost control issues. So currently, Rex recently actually went up to Stradbroke Island in this thing, and on high boost, it was actually running at around 19 PSI boost, which is much higher than we like to run this thing at. It was not very happy. Not that it would have been making any real extra power, because it would have just been dumping a heap of fuel and pulling a heap of timing, and it would have just been getting hot, and it just made the whole thing pretty unhappy. So he's off to Fraser for New Year's, so has to sort of be sorted out before then. Not only that, but he's got one runner on one of the manifolds which keeps cooking a plug boot. So he is going to be fixing that runner as well to try and stop that from happening. But you know, honestly, this thing really needs a lot. It pretty much needs a redo. It needs a re-going over. A lot of the wiring that was done when we first built it, at this stage, you know, we have learnt a lot more about wiring since that was done back then, and we would like to essentially rewire the car almost entirely. Basically rewire both those fuse boxes. We've been having a lot of issues with the fuel pump in the fuse box like wiring situation, so we would like to fix that, but you know, it pretty much would mean a complete rewire is what it really needs. Not only that, but as you can see, currently the breathers are sort of just all taped up, because what we found is one side that has the actual baffle for the breather, it seems to be okay, but the other one that's just got the breather put straight on the cover and then just drawing straight into the intake, it's actually sucking in quite a bit of oil. So we've sort of just been letting them breathe to Atmo. So we would like to put some oil air separators on the damn thing as well. The engine probably needs a bit of a refresh. It's pretty much due. It's using a fair bit of coolant. We're not sort of sure where it's going. So yeah, it's probably pretty much due for a bit of an engine refresh as well. It's getting to that point. It is due for a lot of work, but at the moment, Rex just wants to get it up to Fraser and get it sorted and hopefully get home in one piece. So new gates are a must, and fixing that one manifold runner that keeps cooking a plug boot is also a must, so that it doesn't keep doing that on the beach. But you know, not only that, but we've still got this same radiator in it that's got a pinhole. You know, it's been running the same radiator with a pinhole for a long time, but even that pinhole, it's not leaking enough coolant for how much coolant we keep losing in this thing. So anyway, the big bad old 80 is just desperate for some TLC, some attention, a bit of a rebuild, which will hopefully be happening very soon. But for now, just got to get it up to Fraser and get home.
Yeah, I got some other, I don't know if you mentioned it, but I got some other bits, lights, seat belt, general roadworthy things that need to be sorted out.
So yeah, that's the other thing. Obviously, we've had this car since 1997. So, you know, we've had it for a long time. It's done 500,000 Ks at this point. The seat, as you can see, just keeps getting piled up with crap because it is freaking rooted.
Now even the sheepskin cover is that fucked.
Yeah.
I had to put a towel over it so that you covered that up.
Man, this thing really is a shitbox.
Next step was to just put a pillow on it and then cover that.
So even this sheepskin seat cover, I'm pretty sure has been on it since 1997.
Then the seat belt's like...
So yeah, the seat belt's pretty cooked. So one of our mates that actually helps us out a fair bit, you would have seen him in videos quite a lot, Darcy. Rex dropped by his place yesterday, so he's got some new headlights which are much nicer and cleaner, so they'll get swapped out. We've got a new seat belt which is in much better condition. And Rex has got here a 105 series driver's seat, so we'll probably need just a little bit of modification to fit it. The rails are just a little bit different, so Rex has got a few ideas there. Again, I'll leave the camera with him, but not sure how much he'll actually get to film. But yeah, new driver's seat.
How much I should film of this seat modification.
We'll see. Anyway, so yeah, new driver's seat, new seat belt, just a few general TLC things that have just long overdue. And yeah, we've got a pair of new Turbo Smart 40mm wastegates, V-band ones, which hopefully will work a lot better with this thing. We do want to, when we do like a bit more of a in-depth rebuild on the thing, we do want to do like full braided boost control lines as well, so that they're like never have to be touched again. So these are our two wastegates, our Turbo Smart Gen 5 40mm wastegates. So that should have that sorted out. And yeah, Rex will remake that manifold, and hopefully with the new seat and a few of those things that can go up the Fraser and have a bit of fun. Hopefully keep boost under control and come home in one piece. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, hopefully sometime soon we'll start actually rebuilding this properly. So I really wanted to film all this while it was going on, because obviously we've got our 80 series giveaway happening at the moment, and I wanted to use this content to sort of push that along as well. But you know, obviously I'm not going to be here. Things happen, it's what happens. But anyway, regardless, head to the website, check out the merch, check out the 80 series giveaway. You could win yourself a turbo diesel HZJ80 for as little as $10. How imagine that, $10, win yourself a touring tow rig. How sick. Anyway, we'll see how it goes.
20 bucks, can I just have it now?
No.
Oh.
Actually, legally, you're not allowed to win it.
That's right, I don't want another one. That's a controlled leak so that it washes all of the oil off it at the bottom, see? It's all a contained little system here.
Oh, goodness. So this poor old stock Gen 3 bottom end LS1 has put in a lot of work. You know, this thing's making smidge over 500 horsepower at the tires through 4L80, 80 series transfer case, 80 series diffs on 33-inch tires on steel wheels sort of thing. So, you know, you start to look at your drivetrain losses back to what we've got going on here, and it's probably doing, you know, around 650 at the crank.
Well, that's what the slide rule and calculators say, based on weight and mile an hour at Benarabi. It's making around 650 crank. Around 650 crank. So, yeah, but it's not like it's been nice to it. Like you were saying, when I was at Straddy, it was running 19 PSI. I didn't really get out of it. Yeah. And I didn't even pull over until coolant temp was about 126, and I decided that that was probably enough. And that's not even the hottest we've had this thing. Yeah, so it has been punished since it was built, so it really does deserve a bit of love and tender care and a bit of a rebuild. But yeah, stock Gen 3 rods still going after 4 years, still putting in work. So I am pretty excited for when we do finally get this thing out of here to pull it down and just have a, you know, have a really good look at this engine and see how it's held up, considering the abuse that it's copped. And you know, for a stock Gen 3 bottom end to be putting out 650 crank, you know, it's pretty cool. It's pretty wild. So yeah, excited about that. But anyway, cool car's cool. It's gonna be cooler. Eventually, once we have sort of run the time that we want to run in this thing, we really want to get it to run an 11 with the stock Gen 3 bottom end, with the stock Gen 3 PCM, just so that we can say that it did it. You know, stock 4L80, you know, that 4L80 stock, all we did was pull it apart to put a reluctor gear in the back of it for a speed sensor. The transfer case is still 80 series, completely stock. The rear diff is still completely stock, 80 series rear diff, just got an auto locker in it, that's it. It's still got the stock 80 series axle studs. Those are not 105 studs, those are not aftermarket. Still got a completely stock 80 series front diff. You know, the driveline is all pretty well stock 80 series stuff, and we hard launch it on tarmac in 4 high off the converter, and 60 foot at, what was it, 1.7? 1.9 flat.
Oh, 1.9 flat, yeah.
It was actually a 1.9 flat. I checked the time slip the other day.
Yeah, okay, so 60 foot's at a 1.9 flat. And if we reckon if we can get it to 60 foot at a 1.8 with a sloppy transdrake on the 4L80, we can probably get it to, and just, if we get an RPM input into the E-boost and just dial in a little bit of boost into the top end, just to try and keep a bit more legs in it, we reckon we can get it to run maybe an 1199. But just to say that we did it on a stock Gen 3 bottom end with a stock Gen 3 ECU, etc. And after that, what we would really like to do with this thing eventually is put a Haltech or something in it, put a decent ECU in it after that, and just so that you're able to sort of monitor everything a bit better, and we can tune it a bit better for a few things. But you know, that's a bit later on down the track. Before then, we've got to get it to run an 11, sort of how it is. So we'll try and keep it alive for as long as we can. All right, hello people and non-people, whatever you identify as, you bunch of weirdos, I don't really care.
We are back. I left here, ridiculous hour last night. I think it was about 1:15 by the time I packed up and sorted all this nonsense out. It's Christmas Eve now. My phone's being an anus and doesn't charge, so I missed my alarms and shit, so it's like 11 o'clock at the moment. So I've lost a good 3 or 4 hours today that I hadn't planned on, but we're back. Just started on dismantling the cruiser to get it ready for Fraser. So at the moment, I'm just removing my U-Butte bloody Stratty mods that I did. I really need to make some air boxes for this thing and sort out this breather situation. For anyone who doesn't know, or if we didn't document or whatever, I've had this problem where if you give it a hard time, with the breathers hooked up, it actually sucks a lot of oil into the intakes. You end up with oil dripping out of the filters. It's not that the motor is upset or anything, it's just that there's obviously a bit of suction going on in these dog shit temporary induction tubes that just, when there's actually air going in, it just actually sucks oil out of the motor, particularly this side, because that's there's no splash guard or anything on the back one. A decent airbox would fix this situation, or just like a catch can, but I just don't have time. You all know that. So anyway, I'm going to keep it pretty basic with the coverage of this. This side, the main one is, it's the second cylinder on each bank. That's pretty upset. Fairly obvious why. It's like in each one, it's just the one lead that's copping the heat just from literally every possible direction. This side, you can't see it actually, if I can get this beam off, there we go. This side, I think I've got enough space that I can make a heat shield for this one. This side that you can't see, there's the dipstick and everything. Like, this side's a massive pain in the ass, but this side's that bad. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna actually have to cut the runner out and remake it, which is probably the biggest job that I have to do on this shitbox, is pretty much that runner issue. I've got, as Max has mentioned about 4 or 5 times now, I've got new gates to go on. I don't think that's gonna be that bad, to be honest. It's this runner situation that's gonna be the worst. Anyway, running very short on time, so I'll keep it basic, I'll keep it short, and we'll get into it and just see how much I can get done today. Just immediately, step 1, remove your 2-piece turbo beanie. Yeehaw, we're off to a flying start. All right, so quick update, and I've been laughing my ass off for about 30 seconds. Every now and then, you have to have a win, and I just fucking had one, and you're not gonna believe it. So I got this side off. I figured I'd start with this one. This is the easy side. I figured I'd start with this one because it's quick. I've already got the oven heating. I've already painted, done one coat on the turbo, because these were just raw. As you can see, I was pretty frugal with my masking. Basically those, I don't really give a shit about the rest, whatever. It'll burn off. Now, as you can see, so there's a fair bit of space around these. Now this is the trouble one. As you can see, there's enough space here that I can just make a heat shield, and I can protect this one, and she'll be right. Now, here is the awesome bit. Now this is the old inlet flange for our tire copy gates. So I had to cut this off and weld on the new Turbo Smart 40 gate. Now how is this? Exactly the same damn size. Same thickness, everything. That's with the seat in it. Seat fits perfectly. That will literally just go straight on. I don't have to cut this off and weld it. You have no idea how happy that makes me. It just made my life so much fucking easier. So I'm really stoked. So now all I have to do with this one is just make up a heat shield. I've given it a little bit of a quick go over with the brush. Eventually I'm going to pull these off and get them properly coated, so I'm not too fussed on the cleanup. I'm still going to paint them and bake them just to try and protect them a little bit. But wow, just after this week, I'm just so stoked that something has finally gone my way. I'm so stoked. All right, I'm gonna get stuck into it, and I will update you when I have any other exciting sort of news. Okay, so with this manifold off, you can see the problem child here. So you see all the white on that sock where it's been ridiculously hot. So it's this one here that's the problem, which is off that front runner. Now, there's a few things to get around here because the dipstick goes in that hole and pokes down there as well. Now this is what I was saying, how this is so close that I almost can't get a heat shield in, and I was planning on basically cutting this runner and remaking it, but there's nothing that I can get in there to actually cut this runner. I reckon I could re-weld it if I could cut it, but I can't really get anything in there to cut. And given the time constraints I'm under at the moment, I'm thinking about just trying to slide just that heat shield just under there, and I'll just put a nut here just to secure it, and just hope and pray that that's enough. You can see the others are all good, like that one. Even this one's actually like no signs of white on the sock at all. But yeah, I'd really like to basically cut this bend off here and point it down that way, and then loop it back around, which would give me a lot more space and would make this a lot happier, but I just don't have the time at the moment. So I'm gonna have to make a heat shield for it, and we'll just have to see how it goes. Okay, so just lied to you, right to your collective faces. So you know how I hate, well maybe you don't, but I hate half-assing stuff. So like I said, putting that heat shield in when I know that the runner's not right. It turns out that I could actually get the Cipro in there and manage to cut that off. So I've cut that, and you can see where that runner used to go, like that. I'm now going to have this 45 is going to turn like that. So it doesn't seem like much, but that little bit of extra space is going to make all the difference in the world. And then I'll make a heat shield, and it's just going to be a bit of a spaghetti loop. It's all bends back up into the front runner there, but I'll get it done. I'll be much happier that it's sort of fixed properly, or as properly as I can make it. It's the best chance I can give it of surviving. So all right, I'll have a crack at it. It's now 3 o'clock on Christmas Eve, so hopefully I can just get this welded out today, and maybe bake it in the oven, and I'll just have to see how we go. Righto guys, it's big block of clock, 5:55. I'll just grab a torch. I'll give you a quick rundown. I've got this manifold back on, and that's my heat shields. So pretty ugly. I hate the way they look. However, that should protect this one in particular from any future issues. That one wasn't really showing too many signs of distress, but I figured it can't hurt just to chuck one on that. That one's fine. And that one should be all right too once the beanie goes on. So I did paint and bake it. I'm doing the same with that one. It's more or less a formality at this point. I know that it's not going to last, but at least it's something. Yeah, this side, sort of gonna have to bake that. I'm running out of time. I'm gonna have to head off soon, so I'm gonna have to pick this back up when I get back on Boxing Day. I'm thinking of actually coming back a little bit earlier, possibly just tomorrow. Spend Christmas Day at family's place, and then probably just boost it back out tomorrow night and keep going. That's the new runner, which gives us a bit more room where that plug and boot are, and I've made a shield for that as well. So hopefully this fixes a lot of our problems, and we'll see how this Fraser trip goes. We're back again. It's like 5:30 on Christmas Day now. I had like lunch with our family down on the sunny coast. I got back probably about 45 minutes ago. Just gotten back into it. There's no rest for the wicked, apparently. One day I'll get a whole day off, but anyway. Got this driver's side manifold back on. As you can see, that was that's the heat shield arrangement now. It's pretty tight in there, but there's not much else I can do. I'm really hoping that just having that little bit of heat shield with the air gap underneath it is enough to protect that boot from now on. I can only, if it doesn't, I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do. I'd have to completely remake this manifold, I think, which is not too fun. I don't really want to do that. Fingers crossed. we'll get this turbo back on and keep going a bit more. So I think Max has mentioned this before, but I'll show you again, or if you're new here, this driver side turbo. I don't know how well you can see it on camera, if it's going to focus or what. The poor old wheels had a bit of choppity chop. See the leading edges are all a little bit sad. It started, I first noticed it after the dirt drags that we went to at Archer Falls, and then it wasn't that bad. And then the next time I looked at it was after a beach trip, and it was like this. Pretty sure since then I haven't noticed it getting any worse, so I don't know if it just happened to pick up some shit at those events it got through. I mean, they're only pretty shitty pod filters, so they're not going to keep everything out. Again, they're only temporary till I built air boxes, but 4 years later, here we are. So this one's nowhere near as bad. It's actually pretty good. Anyway, it doesn't seem to have affected the performance, so I don't really worry about it. Should be right. Just send it to the moon. Righto guys, so we're back. It's 8:30 on Christmas Day / night now. I wasn't gonna go this far, but I sort of got on a roll and just kept my momentum up. But basically reassembled. So the gates, new gates are plumbed back in, boost lines hooked up, constant tension clamps now, beanies back on, everything's hooked up. And it really wasn't actually that painful to get the gates to line back up. It was basically just one pie cut and then a short piece of straight. Cut that old flange off and Bob's your Arnie. With the flex bellows, it makes it a lot easier because you've obviously got a little bit of leeway there. It'll stretch, compress, bend a bit, so it works really well. This beanie's super not happy. There's the other half of it still on the table. So just as a temporary fix, I'll just chuck some tie wire just around it. It's just to hold the beanie in place to help protect that plug that I've gone to all this trouble, that boot to try and protect, just to protect it from the turbine housing. So after all that, I clean those air filters, I'm just letting them dry. I'll leave them overnight to chuck them on tomorrow. But we are, oh wow, listen to the lack of leaks. That big stain there as to where this gate was just leaking everywhere. When you first start it and it's cold, it was just like you hear that horrible ticking sound. It sounded dog shit. It sounds awesome. No leaks, we've got 8 cylinders. Everything seems pretty happy. That's the major sort of job done. I'll kick around tomorrow, try and sort out this seat situation. Basically, I had a look. The 105 is just too different to the 80. The different widths, the different shapes is just too much of a pain in my ass. So what I will do is probably just borrow this good canvas seat cover here. Needs a bit of cleaning up. I'll just chuck that on my seat just to try and hide this disgusting mess until I can sort that out early next year. Same with the seat belt. It turns out the buckles and the prongs are different in a 105 and an 80, so you need the right buckle to go with the right belt. So Darcy gave me another belt that's better than mine, but if I'm not changing the seat, I'm not going to bother changing that. So I just got the hot knife. I'll just grab this tool. So the hot knife we use for cutting our braid and stuff like that. And you probably, it's obviously hard to see the frays that aren't there anymore, but it just, like, if you look closely, you can tell that that's been touched up, but no one can say that it is frayed. So my hope is that if Mr. Plod pulls me up on Fraser at all, as long as I can just basically, as long as it looks pretty tidy, they're not going to hopefully look too deeply into it. The conversion and the turbos and everything's all legit, so I'm not worried about that. It's just this normal sort of roadworthy stuff that's a bit of a concern, because obviously I can pick on that. You can see, typical 80 series things, these inner, actually, those outers are starting to do it too. These lights, especially this one, absolutely cooked, full of rust. So I'm going to change them out tomorrow. And then once that's done, we basically, I'll do an oil change on it, a quick service. I'm going to check all the other fluids, box, transfer case and diffs, and basically just give it a quick going over underneath. I did these front wheel bearings recently. They actually feel pretty good. I was going to take the caps off and just retension them, but they feel okay, so I'll just leave well enough alone. And I'll just, yeah, go through, put together a bit of a spares kit for anything I think could go wrong. I'm going to take spare leads anyway, even though I'm hoping I shouldn't need them. Like, I'll take some things like spare silicone line. Like, it's sort of no different going to Fraser than it is just going up to Rainbow, but it's just that little bit more isolated and remote. So just try and think of anything that could possibly go wrong that would be a major inconvenience to me, and try and take a spare so that if I have to, I can just get myself out of trouble and get back. Because if it's completely disabled, a tilt tray back from Fraser is horrendously expensive. But how's this? I can't believe this thing was even frickin' had boost under control at all. This is the gate. This is the one, oh actually no, it was this one. This was the one that I played with on my way to Stradbroke, and you obviously can't tell, but blowing into the bottom port, that sound you can hear is it bypassing straight to the top port. So that diaphragm is doing absolutely fuck all. And then this one, it's not bypassing to there, but it's actually bypassing in the center. So both of these gates, boost was just bypassing the diaphragms altogether. So my only thought is that it was literally relying on the back pressure to basically push the gates open at 6 psi against the 6 psi spring pressure. So unreal. Anyway, I'm thinking that the old girl will be much happier now. Now the other thing I've done, I've actually sprung these gates at 10 psi. So that is the, I believe it was the pink and black springs, which is a 7 and a 3. So it's sprung for about 10 psi. The reason for that is that, as Max has mentioned before, we were having some boost drop-off issues with this thing before at about 14 pound. It had peaked to 14. I don't think Max realised when we went to Benarabi, I actually had hooked up the RPM signal and the compensation. However, at 40% compensation, it was still only picking up a PSI over 0. So that means it had its ass hanging out to do it. But that was with like 6 PSI springs in those old gates. So at 14 pound, we're over twice the spring pressure, which is really hard to get to. You're sort of asking a fair bit. So my thoughts are, with 10 PSI springs in it now, which will now be our low boost, having that extra spring pressure will really help the controller out at high boost, and hopefully we can sort of maintain that 14 PSI right through the RPM range. So I'm not going to have time to dyno this thing. So with new spring pressures and different gates, I'm basically going to have to reset the boost controller. Low boost is obviously pretty easy. It's just going to be spring pressure, 0 duty cycle. That's no problem. The high boost though, I'm basically going to have to road tune it. So it's going to be a pretty iterative process on my drive down to my mate's place at Bribey Island, and then obviously up to Fraser. I'm going to have a bit of time just to do some sensible, gentle pulls and just creep up on the boost a little bit at a time. And hopefully it responds predictably, and I can just get it close enough for this trip. And then when we get back, when we have time early next year, we'll actually do another dyno session and do what I really wanted to do with this thing. There is a port in this pipe. I want to actually measure back pressure. There's also one in the, that's exhaust, exhaust back pressure. And I've actually got one in this turbine housing here so that we can chuck a port in there and actually measure EMAP, because I'm really curious to see where we're at as far as pressure ratios in these manifolds. I reckon it's going to be pretty high. I wouldn't be surprised to see it approaching sort of maybe 3 to 1 on high boost. It's going to get pretty outrageous, I think. But hey, that's how we get our response, and that's what really makes this thing as quick as it is. Unreasonably quick, unexpectedly, and it just works really, really well. What is today? Boxing Day.
Your boy has returned.
Feeling festive?
Dressed for the occasion. So I've basically spent today, I'm packed up and done. So cleaned the filters, reassembled everything this morning. I moved these breathers just under the sort of guards. It's kind of shit because now you get that real fumey smell inside, but I'd rather not have these sucking oil. It's only when you're sitting still anyway. Took it for a drive before to go home, get the rest of my gear, and the only issue I found was this drain was just leaking onto the manifold. It turns out those bolts were loose, which is kind of weird because I never touched those drains. I just undid the fitting, but other than that, everything's all sweet. I've got the boost control dialed back in. We're back around 15 pound on high boost, and I think it was about 9.5 on low. But other than that, no leaks, no issues. It seems to have fixed my leaky drains when I tightened those fittings the other day. So I'm packed up. I think I've got everything except for a couple of camp chairs that I forgot to get from home. And yeah, we're good to go. Checked all the fluids, everything's mint, gave it an oil change. Hopefully we have no issues this trip. Put a little bit of spares kit together just in case and bought some obvious stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I'm just hoping nothing goes wrong this time.
And I know there's going to be a lot of people wondering why aren't we filming it going to Fraser, and we would really like to. I would really like to be there and go, but with everything that was going on this month, there was one thing we sort of we had to leave out, me and the missus, we just couldn't. It's too much. So
yeah,
next,
you've seen how hectic it was just for me to get organised to go on this trip, let alone you guys that have been basically gone for the last two weeks, 3 weeks solid.
So we just really needed some time at home before we start the year off. But the plan is for 2023 to do a lot more of this stuff. Go Fraser, go and have a bit more fun and make a lot more of that sort of content. So we will be.
Got my fresh lights in. They are slightly different. These are a sealed beam, the others are a changeable bulb. But either way, they're plugged in, they work, so everyone's happy. Cleaned up that seat cover, much nicer than the other one. Ready to rock and roll. Loaded up with octane booster. So yeah, hopefully we're all good. We're gonna
$2 grand in fuel this trip.
Yeah, it's not. I'm not looking forward to it, but
so yeah, there you have it. Apologies for the pretty dry video. It's been kind of awkward and rushed, but
like them all.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes when we get back.
And hopefully in future we can get you some more footage of it actually out racing and stuff now that I've got this sort of nonsense sorted.
We can do a bit more activities. Go have some fun.
So yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. Peace out, see you, bye.